Hello there, I'm so excited about this class because in this class I'm gonna teach you how to talk about time, telling time. Like if someone asks you what time is it, you were able to answer, you were able to also ask what time is it, and you will also be able to say things such as it's time to go home, anything related to time. So let's do an overview about everything related to this subject. Okay, so we are here to take a look at time, and the first question I'm going to teach you about this is what time is it? To ask what time is it in Brazil, we just say que horas são? Que horas são? What time is it? Que horas são? In this case here, this clock with the red background, it's 2 o'clock. So my answer would be são 2 horas. Okay? Now, you have to have in mind something that in Portuguese, well, I would say in Brazil, I'm not sure how it is in the other countries that speak Portuguese. So in Brazil, we do use a little different time system. And I believe, and I'm not sure if I'm correct or not, but I believe you guys call it military time. And that's when you use, for example, 2 p.m. So 2 p.m. in Brazil would be 14 hours. 14 hours. So 14 hours is 2 p.m. Now, there are few ways that Brazilian people will do that reference to time. So in this question here, que horas são? And it's 2. Let's think that is 2 p.m. You can say 2. You don't need to say 14. A lot of people will say 14. A lot of people will not. 14 is definitely the correct way, the way that you should use, but a lot of people say 2. So you're going to hear both ways. Now, if we're talking that it is 2 p.m. and you want to say the number 2, not 14, then you can say são 2 da tarde. Do you need to skip hours, horas? Not really. You can say both ways. Now, Brazilians like to talk a little fast, and we do hide lots of words from our sentences. So, typically, you are going to see são 2 da tarde more often than são 2 horas da tarde. They're both correct, but you're going to hear in this version more often. Okay? So basically what I'm saying is if the person is not going to say that it is 14 hours, she will say that it is 2 either p.m. or a.m. If it was a.m., if we're talking about 2 in the morning, you can only say 2 horas. São 2 horas. If you only say são 2 horas, it is definitely a.m. because you don't really need to specify. That's the only 2 because 2 p.m. is 14 hours. Now, what I'm saying is you can use 2 for p.m., but you're going to have to specify that it is p.m. If it's in the morning, you don't have to. But you can. If you want to say it's 2 in the morning, you can. It's not incorrect. And you would say são 2 horas da manhã. I don't need the capital at all, so são 2 horas da manhã. Or são 2 da manhã. So basically what I'm saying is that they're all correct. What are you gonna hear more? I would say that typically you're going to hear more. This one in green, são 2 da tarde, if you are using 2 instead 14. And this one here in yellow, são 2 da manhã. That's what you typically will hear more often, but you can hear all these different questions. Answers. Okay, so kind of like that. If it was night, if we are talking about night, so let's suppose that right now is 8 p.m. So 8 p.m. would be 20 hours, right? 20 horas. So, são 20 horas. Let me write 20 to make more sense for you. São 20 horas. It's 8 p.m. or you can also say, like I was just saying, just to specify what period of the day that is. Let me just reduce here so I can open some space. São 20 horas or são 8 da noite. 8 horas da noite. 8 da noite. Tanto faz. It doesn't matter if you're gonna put hours in that middle or if you will not. Okay, so I did highlight here in green, yellow, and blue the versions that you're gonna hear a little bit more often, but again, you typically hear all the possibilities. Let me just put in 8 p.m. here so you will remember that 20 hours is 8 p.m. Okay, now there is another important information here that we need to think about. Okay, so this one, it was 2 o'clock originally when we first started, it was 2 o'clock. Now, what I want to show you is that if it was 1 p.m., that means, let me just change it here so I can put it all in the same. I think I'll change the size of the words here. So let's change this one. 16, good. So if we're talking about 1 p.m., it's a 1 hour. It's not many hours, it's only one. So that means that's a singular. And if we're talking about singular, it's not going to be são, it's going to be é. So, kind of like this. É 1 hora da tarde. It's 1 in the afternoon. It is 1 in the afternoon. Or you also is going to say, you can say são if you were going to say the military system. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, if it's military system. I should definitely look on that before I record this class. But if you're going to say 13, because that's what it is, 1 p.m. is 13 hours. So if you're going to say 13, then you're going to keep in plural, because 13 is not 1, it is 13. So, são 13 horas. Or são 13 da tarde. It can be as well. So let's put são 13 da tarde, and I'm going to write this time. São 13 da tarde. Okay, and now I want you to actually practice the pronunciation of the sentence we're talking so far. So the first one, que horas são? You can repeat. Que horas são? The answer is são 2 horas. This one, the green, são 2 da tarde. São 2 horas da manhã. São 2 da manhã. São 20 horas. São 8 da noite. É 1 da tarde. São 13 da tarde. Great. Now you have already practiced. Let's take a look at this clock here. So this one is 10:10. So we're gonna say, the question is the same. Whoops, let me just make it a little bigger. 11 is too small. Let's go for 22. Question is, que horas são? And the answer will be 10. So, são 10h10. But this version is way too long, and like I said, we like to cut things off a little bit and make the sentences a little shorter. So instead saying são 10h10, we're just going to say são 10h10. São 10h10. Let's suppose that it was 10:25. São 10h25. E we will say E. E. Sounds like E. Or, let's skip E. São 10h25. I should have wrote 25 instead. 25. Então means so, that's why I keep repeating. São 10h25. São 10h25. So, 10h25, that's what it is. So this can be either PM or AM, but if it is PM, the right way that you wanted to use is 22 hours, right? But you can say, if it is 10 p.m., you can say 10h25 da noite. So, são 10h25 da noite. Great, you have seen now how you can say hours in Portuguese in Brazil perspective. But now we're going to take a look how to say other words such as yesterday, tomorrow, last night, last month, and things like that. So let's get started here with the second part. When it is lunchtime, when you need to say it is lunchtime, you're going to say é. Whoops, let me make this a little bigger for us. É hora do almoço. Almoço here means lunch, and it's a noun. Almoço, if you want to make that as a verb instead, you can. So it would be é hora de almoçar. What's the difference? In the first sentence, I said it's lunchtime. On the second sentence, I said it is time to have lunch. So if you want to say time to have lunch, hora de almoçar. Almoçar is a verb and has all the conjugations. So if you say, for example, eu almoço, means I eat lunch. But if you want to say I will have lunch, then you're going to need that almoçar without being conjugated. Now, I know this seems a little bit complicated, so we don't need to focus that right now. It's just important that you understand the difference. Why do you have two so similar words and what they are? So this is a noun and this is a verb. Okay? So if I want to tell you that now I am going to have lunch, so I'm going to say agora. Now is agora. Agora é hora do almoço. Agora é hora do almoço. Please repeat after me. Agora é hora do almoço. Now let's take a look on how it would be for dinner time. Agora é hora da janta. But if you want to do it as a verb, like I showed you for almoço and almoçar, you are going to just change this a little bit and you'll put agora é hora de jantar. So first sentence, now is time for dinner. And here I say now is time to have dinner. This dinner actually is a verb and this one is a noun. Okay, so I'm gonna put all the ones that are nouns in blue and the ones that we're talking as a verb will be in yellow. So changing this one for yellow and this one too. Honestly, it does not matter. It's just different ways to say the same thing. Okay, now we're going to take a look in acordar. Acordar. Acordar is a verb and means wake up. Hora de acordar. Time to wake up. So every time is time for something. I don't know if you noticed, but we have that same preposition going on over and over again, which is de, do. Sometimes it will be a da. For example, if I say, I can say é hora da janta. Ah, I did put that one here. There it is, so we don't need the second one. So, hora de acordar is always time for something, and that for us will be always either de, do, or da. What's the difference? That's going to be a little bit more complicated. Right now, you don't need to understand that difference. We're going to see all these prepositions in another lesson. But it is related to the gender of the word. So, for example, janta is a feminine word, and then I changed that de for da. And do, is going to follow the masculine words. That's why for almoço, I used do. And when I'm going to use a verb that's not conjugated, I'm going to use de. But again, there's a lot of things that involves this preposition, so we don't want to take a look on it right now. I'm just explaining you the difference so you have a little bit of sense of what is this for, why do they look different. And it's, again, all related to the gender of the word that's coming after it. Okay, so now we're going to take a look since we started with dinner, lunch. Let's take a look. So he just woke up, right? Look at this picture. He is waking up right now. Acordou agora. So that means it's time for what? It is time for breakfast. Breakfast will be café da manhã. Coffee of the morning. That's how we call our breakfast. So if I want to say it is time for breakfast, I will say é hora do, because café is a masculine word, hora do café da manhã. Now, remember I told we do lots of cutting words out of the sentence. So the rest of the sentence here, da manhã, typically you can skip. If you were just saying that it's time for breakfast, you can just say it's time for the coffee. And if that's in the morning, everyone, you will understand that you actually means breakfast. So you can say either or. You either say é hora do café da manhã, or you can say é hora do café. É hora do café not necessarily means that it's time just for coffee. It can mean that it's time for the whole breakfast. É hora do café. Now let's repeat these new sentences here. I will repeat and then you repeat after me. hora de acordar. Café da manhã. É hora do café da manhã. É hora do café. Now, just to wrap up everything about this time lesson, I have here a picture of this girl and she looks like she is sleeping. So let's assume it's nighttime. So for nighttime, you already know that the word night is noite, morning is manhã, and afternoon is tarde, right? So if we scroll down here, I have a little picture of manhã, tarde, e noite. Now, there are two words related to time. So, you know, when you say early in the morning or late in the afternoon, the word early is cedo, and the word tarde is afternoon. So that means that we have a little different word for that's late. I'm sorry. Tarde is late. So you already learned that afternoon means tarde. But if you're saying late, and it's not about being late for something, you mean like late afternoon, late in the morning, that means tarde. Okay, so late can also be tarde. Most of the time, if you're using the word late to say that you were late for something, that's a whole new word and it is atrasado. If you are atrasado, you are late for something. But if you're saying late afternoon, that is tarde, fim da tarde. Now, it does not mean, so late does not mean and. I just say that fim da tarde would be end of the day. It's not late afternoon, it's the end of the day. So it's different. If we're talking about the end, late afternoon, you want to say tarde. So tarde is late. So if you are going to say that it's going to be too late to go to the party, you're going to say tarde. It's too tarde to go to the party. So it's the same word for late and same word for afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and put this a little bigger because if you are on a cell phone, you may be having trouble to read. So there you go. That looks better. So cedo is early. If you have something to do tomorrow morning, you're going to say amanhã, which is the word for tomorrow, and cedo, which means early. So tomorrow early means tomorrow morning. There are two ways you can do this. You can either say amanhã de manhã, that means tomorrow morning, or amanhã cedo, which means tomorrow early. It may sound weird for you, but you're going to hear this a lot in Portuguese. Tomorrow early, I have a doctor appointment. So either or, they're both right. Not sure if you noticed that when we are going to say de manhã, you need the preposition together. If it's in the morning, the de need to be there. Okay? If you're just saying the word early, the de is not necessary. It should not be there at all. If you add it, should be incorrect. Now, if you're going to say tomorrow afternoon, that would be amanhã de tarde. So again, we needed the preposition again for morning and for afternoon. Now, if it is for nighttime, you do not need the preposition de. You're going to need something a little different. So that would be amanhã à noite. This little mark here, it is in the opposite direction of what you're used to see, and that is called crase. I'm going to write it here. Crase is something else, and you're going to learn in another lesson whenever you are a more advanced learner. it basically means the same as para, which means to. So for some reason, for whenever you talk in Portuguese, times of the day. So let's review. Amanhã de manhã, amanhã de tarde. But when it gets in nighttime, it needs to be à noite, not de noite. You can say de noite, it's not incorrect, but it's more informal. The correct form would be à noite. And actually, I just noticed that I forgot to add à tarde is also appropriate to talk about afternoon, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, if you say de tarde and de noite is not wrong. It's just like when you're talking about afternoon and night, it will sound better if you use à noite instead. That does not apply for morning. For morning, you should keep de manhã, not amanhã. Because if you say amanhã, it sounds like you're saying tomorrow, not morning. Does that make sense? So I hope you understood this difference, and we're going to do some exercises so you can practice these uses as well. But now, just to wrap up everything, let's take a look in a few words here that you may want to learn as well when you're talking about time. So you learned already that afternoon is tarde, and if we're talking late, it is tarde as well. Oh, I just noticed I repeated. Okay, and fim de tarde, end of the day. Atrasado is when you are late for something, it's not like it's getting late. Okay, so now let's take a look at these words here that you can use on a daily basis as well, which is tomorrow, you just learned. It's missing the little mark. Ontem is yesterday. Yesterday, ontem. Ontem. Antes de ontem is a day before yesterday. You guys don't say there, you guys would just say 2 days ago, but we actually have a term that is used just for that 2 days ago, and it is antes de ontem. Okay, now the word for, we saw ontem, which is yesterday, antes de ontem, 2 days ago, and hoje. Hoje is today. Hoje. Every time you see a word with H in Portuguese, that H is silence. You don't say it. So every time, for example, the word human in English is humano in Portuguese. The H is silence. So, hoje is today. And if you want to say tonight, you just say hoje à noite or hoje de noite. And remember what I told you, if you say à noite, it just sounds more proper than if you say de noite. It's not like it's wrong, but it just sounds better if you use a for night and afternoon, and use the for mornings, it's better. So, hoje de manhã, today morning, and today in this morning, but tonight, tomorrow morning. Okay, and the very last thing I want to show you before we go is when you're referring to noon in afternoon, for example, 12 o'clock afternoon is noon. For us is meio-dia. Meio-dia. If you want to say 12:30 in the afternoon, that would be a little different. It's going to be 12:30 or meio-dia e meia. What is this meia? Meia means metade and means half. I'm sorry. It means half, and that means half of a full hour. So meia. That's why we say no. If we're talking, I'm sorry, I'm making a little confusion. So if we're talking about 12:30 p.m., I'm gonna write it here. So 12:30 p.m. equals meio-dia e meia. So that means half day and half hour of that hour. Does that make sense? So, meio-dia e meia is 12:30 p.m. And if we're talking about midnight, that is meia-noite. If you're saying 12:30 a.m., same thing, will be meia-noite e meia. Meia-noite e meia, 12:30 a.m. All right, and that's it for today.